Deputy Director General at the Infrastructure South Africa. And I'm really honored to be on stage with the panel members. And I'm sure you can recognize some of the faces. May I please ask the Honorable DM to introduce herself, and then we'll move along accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, TDG Batu. My name is Bernice Swarts, the Deputy Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure.
Thank you. From Moderator, DM, my colleague. My name is SIDSSA Sibande. I'm the Head of Property Management and Trading NTT, a component of Department of Public Works and Infrastructure.
Good afternoon, Program Director, DM, and all colleagues. My name is Masavata Mutlaneng. I'm the Head of the Department for Infrastructure Development in Gauteng Provincial Government. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can I please request that we put our phones on silent so that we don't disturb the proceedings this afternoon? Just to give some context and purpose, what we want to achieve this afternoon really is to look at the value propositions and innovations that we as a collective are going to come up with in relation to solving the challenges of state property management. And we look at our infrastructure, that it has been built quite some time ago, and the majority of it is aging. And there is a need for robust asset management principles to be applied in our portfolio of assets so that we're able to leverage these particular assets and we're able to maximize on the balance sheet that we have. Now, we are going to look at this from a different and various perspective this afternoon. We'll look at issues of, how do we enhance revenue? We'll look at the issue of the actual balance sheet that we have, and to say, what can we do with it, with this particular balance sheet, so that we're able to fix our assets accordingly. So, without saying much, I'm going to then start with the questions. And after we're done with the questions, I'll then request the audience to give a few remarks and questions, and we'll respond. And hopefully, at the end, we've got some scribes from the Infrastructure South Africa colleagues who will take notes, and they'll be circulated at a given point in future. So, welcome to those that just joined. DM, thank you very much for being here with us this afternoon. I know that you could be somewhere, and we'll try to be as quick as possible in our discussions. Given the challenges, DM, that we have discussed around the aging infrastructure and the complexity of the portfolio itself, both at a national government and provincial government perspective, how do we then look at mechanisms of revenue enhancement of this particular portfolio that we have? Thank you, DM.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mokhoju. Public Works and Infrastructure, we have a portfolio of 88,000 buildings throughout the country. Now, out of the 88,000 buildings, we become the landlord of government, in that we provide the accommodation to all the departments of government as a whole. So all departments get their properties through us. Now, we collect the revenue from them, from those properties. That is how we generate our revenue. Now, coupled to that, excluding our own buildings, we still have buildings that we lease out from landlords, which is the private landlords, either than our own buildings. But what we are trying to currently do is that we are trying to refurbish and maintain our own buildings so that we move away from getting buildings from the private landlords. because we do have a portfolio of 88,000 buildings. Now, when the moderator started, he introduced that our buildings are very old buildings, they're aging. So what we are doing now is that through the PMTE unit where we house REMS, which is our property unit, we are now going on a full maintenance, full scale. That is why we are now introducing the renovate, operate and transfer. So we are going to get in the private sector, we are going to get in investors so that they renovate all our properties for us and we get them into good shape and bring in all the going green and get our properties up to standards, which is what is making our tenants to want to go to the private sector, because obviously our buildings are aging and we must meet the standard of what the private landlords are doing. So the renovate, occupy, transfer is that we will give the private sector to come in, invest, and renovate and operate the building for 20 years. And after 20 years, they hand the building over to us. So those are the mechanisms and ways of us getting our building in shape, and at the same time, that is where we get our revenue from. The second leg is that we lease out land for 30 years, renewable for 30 years, which means that we are able to lease out land for 60 years and also comply with our policy, which guides people who apply for leasing of our land for that period, whether it's for stock farming, it's for crop farming. And the other part of it is that we are able to also lease out land for people who actually want to develop property on it. But that one, our head of PMTE, Mr. SIDSSA, who's here, will elaborate on it because he's going to drive that part because it's a new strategy that we are bringing in. And for the first time as well, we are also going to go out, moderator, and lease out land along the harbors, which is along Richards Bay, Hout Bay, and all where we have properties along the harbors. We are going to lease out the land there to also generate income. Currently, we do have people who are leasing out properties from us currently there, which is our old infrastructure that is currently there at those harbors. Now, it is the properties which the people who are doing business in the ocean, which are doing the fishing, who are doing your perlamoon and everything that they do. But since 2017, we have had people who have been renting our properties on a month-to-month basis. Now, the public is always asking, why have you gone on month-to-month? You will remember that the previous minister, Delil, was trying to bring in more black people into the property space. So we came up with a new policy that said that we do not want black people to be fronting for white people. So if there's a BE partnership, the black person needs to own 49, the 51% and the other person 49%. So it has been difficult because we in the policy are saying that the black person must be part of management and the black person must own 20% of the title deed. Now, when we brought that in, because the percentage of the people who were running the properties was actually the highest percentage was white people. So the white people became resistant that, no, it is our companies, we can't just let somebody come in. That is why you will find that we ended up at a stage having this long month-to-month process. But on the other hand, we've had a head of PMTE that was acting. So Mr. SIDSSA just came in as our permanent head of PMTE, which is our trading entity, in December. And he has come in now, kicking all doors and windows and roofs off that we are not going to have month-to-month. We are going to advertise, and indeed, moderator, we are on track in putting our words into action, because we just advertised on Friday, this past Friday, what I'm talking about. That is the leasing out of properties advert has gone out. we have gone out and we have advertised as well our billboard advertising. That is another avenue of us to generate income. So indeed, we are working around how as Public Works we generate income by using what we have in terms of our properties, in terms of the land we have, in terms of the space we have for the outdoor advertising. So the outdoor advertising is also something that we've brought in now, that we are saying that we are going to use that to generate income. And of course, there are many other avenues that at Public Works we could use to generate income as well, because we do a lot of total facilities management maintenance. So with the new innovation and strategies that Mr. SIDSSA is bringing in, he will also elaborate, because there also we are also going to do a lot of generating of revenue ourselves as the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. I think that I will stop there, moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DM. I think I really like the thinking around these strategies that the department is unlocking to really sweat our assets. And to the head of PMTE, Mr. Sibande, is to try to understand these particular strategies, perhaps, what are they? I know that they've been touched on, to say it's revenue enhancement, and perhaps there are others that maybe we can learn from. And secondly, it is looking at the life cycle management of our buildings, to say that how best can we deal with the life cycle management of our buildings. Thank you.
No, thank you, moderator. Once again, greetings to the DM and our guest present today. I think from my side, the DM has elaborated quite significant in terms of our strategies to sweat our assets and leverage on the balance sheet that is standing there idling, not necessarily generating any dividend to the state, which will in return assist us to maintain the life cycle of our assets. And that is where we have a shortfall. I think the DM was very clear in terms of the strategies that we are currently incorporating within the department to ensure that we generate revenue over a period of time. Well, if you look at the shortfall overall in terms of how much we need to maintain our asset, we currently in need of 33 billion rand. That will assist us to really improve the life cycle of our asset. And in that case, we know very well that we are faced with an global economic downturn. The current global geological politics, the Ukraine war, the Israeli-Palestine issues, and other issues that we are currently faced with that affects our performance in the economic front, have got a direct impact in terms of how our country generates revenue. And we've recently experienced budget cuts across all departments. And every time there are budget cuts, the first cut always comes to properties, maintenance. And if you look at how much each department is supposed to pay us per square meter, as the DMF said, because that is where we also generate revenue. They are paying us between 15 rands and 30 rands per square meter. That is how much we generate from client departments. On top of that, we have to offset municipal charges, rates, and other services, of course. And that in itself is not adequate. Yet you will see some of the state of our state properties out there. And then you ask yourself, why there's so much deprivation that we experience on a daily basis? Some of the lifts are not working. Some of the properties are not really responding very well. State employees, they prefer to opt for private leases. And then on the other side, if you look at how much we spend on the private leases per square meter, we spend around 120 to 160 rand per square meter. As the DMF said, we are now turning around that particular approach and to say, look, in Pretoria alone, we've got around 40 vacant properties. One of them is the well-known Telkom Towers. It was on the news. That property alone provides 120,000 square meters. It's vacant. The DM has spoken about the refurbish, operate, and transfer. That strategy alone begins to say the collaboration with the private sector through a triple P, for example, will assist us to unlock value over a long period of time and begin now to ensure that there is proper maintenance over the life cycle of the asset. Because we say you come in to refurbish, operate. That operate part of it comes with the maintenance. And then what government then does, instead of government paying upfront for the capital outlay, government will then reprioritize their budget and commit to spread that money over a period of 30 years or so, 25 to 30 years or so. What does it mean is that government can then invest that and put that capital outlay into an interest-generating fund, which will then commit into a long-term lease or rental, which is very attractive. It's an attractive scheme that will consider in terms of investment. If you look at the government bond and what we're bringing on the table as well. It's a lucrative scheme because it begins to provide a mutual benefit, both to the investor and the quality of assets that will generate. We looked at the BOT program as well, which is a build, operate, and transfer, where we are saying the private sector, through a public-private partnership, where necessary, you will then develop, will then appoint a private partner who will then build the property and then operate it and then transfer it after a particular period of time. And the value in terms of the cap rate, for example, or the yield rate, it looks very positive as compared to the private sector, looking between 8 and 13% net yield rate. It's very good. And mind you, it also gives state guarantees. I mean, there's nothing guarantees repayment like the South African government over a period of time. And the risk is very low as well, because if you compare with some of the properties at Hatfield, Brooklyn, Midrand, the cap rate is very high, but the risk is also very high because you only have short-term rentals. But if government comes in and give you a long-term, less risk, high return in terms of investment, it becomes very attractive, and it's a better option of investment. So these are some of the strategies we are putting in, and we expect a positive return from the private sector, also from our IDFC as well, where we will partner with them. We look in terms of the real estate management and also in terms of equity shareholding as well. That is where we'll also make sure that we generate revenue to assist us maintain some of the assets that are lying there unutilized, or some of the assets that are lying there which requires equity to be maintained. And then secondly, we're also looking in terms of reducing our, as the DMF said, our unutilized portfolio that we advertised on Friday. Those assets are currently carrying high holding cost. You see, some of our assets are carrying, they've got the risk of illegal occupation, and they also, as they are illegal occupied, to remove the person from properties is difficult because by certain laws, at times you must find alternative accommodation. But we've also advertised for a bring back operation program where we appoint a service provider to ensure that all the assets that are illegally occupied are returned back to the state, including those that have been stolen. Some have been stolen by municipalities and the provinces. So we wanted those properties back, and because some of these properties are strategically located in attractive and highly lucrative prime areas. You won't believe we've got properties here in Camps Bay with a sea view, lying there for many years. How much you can sweat out of that particular property? Quite R1 billion, around that one alone, because it's around 6,000 square meters. We've got one around next to Milnati, We've got one around next to the harbor here. You know, next to the harbor, it's called the waterfront village. A one-bedroom deputy mayor, a deputy minister there. A one-bedroom apartment costs around 6 million rand. So we've got properties lying there that we can really put out in the private sector and collaborate and ensure that we have strategies to unlock value out of those properties. Some are even close to the ICC here in Cape Town. I mean, those are good strategies. When I look at them and I look at my colleagues, I laugh because they are sitting on some gold that we can quickly convert into good money for the state over a period of time. But I hope my colleagues from Gauteng will also partner with us because across the Gauteng province, we've got properties that we want to refurbish. We want the municipalities also to ensure that they allow us rights to access bulk service. They also improve their roads as well, and also make sure that their turnaround time in terms of planning issues are also improved, because there's no use to come with the investor, but municipalities are not responding on time. Yes, these are some of the issues, moderator, wanted to put across. But these are some of the strategies that will ensure that we set our assets to generate revenue. That generated revenue will enable us to maintain some of these assets as well. But with the support that we have from the political principle, which, as the other colleagues in the other panel said, you wish that they can be returned after the elections, so that we can continue with the work. So it's very important, because you know, in our country, any change brings about stagnation and one step forward, 3 steps backward. But we wish that such program should be maintained, because we are receiving a lot of support from the principals, and the vision that they've set for us to implement. It's correct, we do get guidance, but it's going to change the spatial landscape of our state properties over the next few years. Thanks, moderator.
Thank you, Head of PMT, and I want to borrow some of your words around the issue of collaboration, because it appears that it's important for all 3 spheres of government to collaborate. We've got the DDM models that are there for us to do the collaboration. And you've touched also to say putting an olive branch to Gauteng province, particularly to the HOD sitting next to you, that there has to be a lot of collaboration. And from us, HOD, if you could maybe give us some of the good examples of collaboration with the private sector that you're currently busy with or that you're planning, because it really looks like this is the way to go. You know, for us to be able to maximize, and we need to work with the private sector. And we would like to know a little bit more of your initiatives in Gauteng.
No, thank you very much, Program Director, Facilitator, and good afternoon, colleagues, once more. So I think for us, really, and I'll get to just your question shortly, but it's important just to really acknowledge the DM's input in the sense that I think it's true that there's several changes that have taken place within the public sector itself, in trying really to understand the property portfolio itself, that in the eyes of the public, but at the same time be able to look at how we can leverage opportunities to enable this massive assets to turn into something better. And of course, I mean, the most important issue is also that all the property portfolios are sitting in infrastructure departments, which means there's a huge opportunity, and there's a linkage, a very strategic linkage around how to ensure that in the development or in the infrastructure space, you cannot move away from the fact that there is what we call a strategic property planning or property portfolio management and strategy that needs to be put in place in order for us to be able to then say, therefore, with the assets that we have, what is it that needs to be done? And I think government in its entirety has really done a great job in being able to align the entire GIAMA, which is then, of course, the Government Immovable Asset Management Strategy or an Act, to align it fully to what we now continue to refer it as to a delivery management system, because you cannot talk about a delivery management system outside the overall property portfolio. But the property portfolio becomes the center, your DNA as a public sector or public works family or infrastructure development departments. Now, just going a little bit to just your question. So it really had required all of us to think outside the box. I recall, and maybe just on a lighter note, I've got my bosses here, but so my former boss and my current boss are in this platform, so you must be very nice to me, or else I may just get into trouble. But quite in recalling really where we come from as a province, we were sitting with massive assets, but we just didn't know what was the value of those assets. And it's quite really refreshing just to listen to the DM, just being able to say, we know what we have, and we know we can leverage on what we have. And I think we've had to go through that exercise ourselves as a provincial government, to the extent that we are currently sitting with a baseline or a property portfolio that is sitting at around 55 billion. And which it's different type of assets, from land, from buildings, and I mean that also includes institutions like schools, including health facilities as well, some of the multi-purpose centers that exist. So all of this, but it just means that there's an opportunity for us to do something about it. We struggle. I mean, now we know where we are as a country, where the fiscus is not enough. There's budget cuts across the board. So what is it that we need to do, and how can we then leverage on this assets that we have? So one of the things that Gauteng has done, and I think it was even done prior to where we are now, that we know what then becomes the value of our various property assets. So let's take the Gautrain. Now, Gautrain has been one model that has worked, that is known internationally, that has been able to say a triple P as a model of funding, as a model of delivery, definitely can work and has worked. The phase one has gone quite, of course, without not necessarily that it didn't have challenges, but I think it has gone to a point where we no longer talk about the challenges of Gautrain, but what are those lessons and how are we taking those lessons to the next phase? And I think that's the reason why at the moment there's already a thinking about taking those lessons towards a new or a new rail and a new project that we're engaging with with Limpopo, in around between Gauteng and Limpopo, and to the extent that even the similar thinking is about how then do we also then assist even just with the KwaZulu-Natal province, including even in the Free State. So what we're saying is that triple P model, we know that it has worked, and it's about how then do we leverage and how can we then duplicate that in order for us to be able to utilize the public-private partnership as a model of being able to invest, but also increase and have infrastructure that is working, that can be a solution towards the problems that we are faced with. I mean, earlier on, we just also had an interesting conversation with the British and the High Commissioner, and as the DG earlier also just in our own conversation, he made reference to the fact that the logistical aspect, or how we then move things between the different provinces as a country, makes a meaningful contribution, whether it makes it in a negative sense or whether in a positive sense. So if we don't solve our logistical problems between the different provinces, including within the various spheres of government, it means we'll not be able to have resolved the issues of solving the way of doing business, and also solving the best way of ensuring that the relationship between ourselves and the private sector enables us to be able to deliver and contribute to the GDP of our country and of course our province. Furthermore, secondly, we are currently looking at the Triple P model again once more. I know most of you would know about the Kopanum Precinct, which has been a long, outstanding program that we do believe that with the lessons also, we've engaged further amongst ourselves as a province, and we think we'll want to continue with the Kopanum Precinct, which is about making sure that the CBD becomes the anchor also of getting more activity of business, more opportunities within the CBD, but also being that government that can be responsive, because people still do come to CBD to definitely look for work, for them to be able to do any trade in that space. We still have the biggest, some of the banks, yes, certainly have left the CBD, but we do believe that once we implement the Kopanum Precinct, we'll be able then to meet the minimum commitment that we have made to the private sector for some of them to have continued to remain within the CBD. So we definitely think that through that again, another Triple P will continue to be the anchor of our delivery model. The third aspect is that we are currently finalizing a Triple P agreement where we're together with the West Rand municipality and the West Rand area, where we are establishing the solar energy farm, and the entire purpose is really to enable us to be able to make sure that that farm becomes an anchor for the entire province, because we would know that in that area there's still a vast land that is still available, and we think that in putting up a solar farm that can contribute immensely to our current energy challenges, it will be able to then to help us in resolving our energy challenges. But further, maybe just to indicate that we are also engaging on various models. I think the issue around the BOT, whether the build and operate and transfer model, remains also an anchor. So we've just issued out about 59 different parcels of properties with an intention to ask the market to say, well, there's these properties. We will definitely go, and we are currently looking at going beyond the 30 years lease, depending on what type of facility, what proposal we are going to put up in those facilities or land parcels. And really the intention is that whatever the facility that is there should be able to then to bring back the revenue back into the province. Though I must say that from a property portfolio point of view, we are literally I don't want to say shaped differently, but I think we're established differently. So ourselves as DID, we are seen as an implementing agent on behalf of provincial government for all the other departments in terms of the delivery of schools, delivery of hospital clinics, and the various assets that they may require. But on the issue around the property management itself, we then the budget is then centralized to DID for us to enable office accommodation on behalf of our sister departments or our departments. And in this instance, the idea is to ensure that there's compliance largely on all of those office accommodation. But we are aware that I think since COVID, we've really realized that there's a need for us to change and to think differently. Whilst it's central to it, it's about making sure that those facilities are OHS compliant, but at the same time, the new model of working virtually works. The new model of working, of having to think differently. It's no longer about only going to the office, but it's about being able to plug and play wherever you may be in order for you to be able to do your business. So it's one of the models that we are looking at, that as much as, yes, we will be investing in Kopanum Precinct, but it's about making sure that business continues irrespective of where you may be, and will be able to deliver. And in any case, we are also quite aware that I know the Chinese have been able to do this model and have understood it better, that not all individuals are more effective or productive for the entire day. only a certain portion of hours, you'd find that individuals are indeed more productive. So it's about how do we make sure that we create an office accommodation that is much more conducive to enable and to enhance capacity of our staff to be able to think differently and to think definitely innovatively. So for ourselves, but to just really in concluding, so we really are looking at certainly continuing the PPP model, because as we've said, the fiscus is quite limited, and therefore will continue in that trajectory, but also then further looking also at the level at the BOT model. But even the BOT model, it's still within the National Treasury's guideline of the PPP in essence, because we are aware that government cannot do this on its own. We definitely do require the assistance and the collaboration of the private sector, and certainly as provincial government, we are open to that and would like to continue to engage with everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me just check if our audience is awake. Yes? Okay, thank you. We're going to focus on you now. May I check if there are any mics around? Yes, the mics. Can we get some questions from the floor? First round of questions. Please indicate who you are and where you come from.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, I think it is, DM and the rest of the speakers. I've just got maybe a very small question as an entrepreneur. We often desire to partner with government in many instances, but what becomes inhibiting is often policy certainty. In all the programs, particularly the one for refurbish and give back to government, how are we going to get policy certainty to be able to at least have the confidence to invest?
Okay, thank you. I missed your name.
It's Zimbini. I'm from the Energy Group.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, DM, and colleagues. Thanks for the presentation. I think what has been presented here is very exciting. And as we know, as a country, we have always been very good with plans and strategies. So we can't really be faltered there. So I think linking back to the point that was being raised by the colleague at the back, what we struggle with is execution risk. Our ability to implement, to execute, continuity of plans, of strategies. We're in a funny season now, elections, new MECs, new ministers, things change. Even if it's ANC government, because you've got a new minister, new MEC, things just get thrown away. How do we get to a point that we can lock in these programs, that they get to a point of what we call irreversibility? That is not dependent about who was the minister, who was the MEC, who was the HOD. So we have seen that. So I've been on the other side, so I've got the benefit, and I can talk about quite a lot of things. The other thing I want to comment on is to really make a plea and a request to the two departments, including SIDSSA. Can we take interest in reviewing the legislations that the President spoke about for PPP amendments that are being spoken about? I haven't seen that. I also want to take interest, because one of the challenges is the regulations within the system that become a huge constraint. And PPP, very good concept, powerful, but how you go about implementing it is a problem. So I think what I'm saying is that I'm requesting that we take interest. I'd like to see DID, Public Works, SIDSSA making submissions, and all of us making submission on the basis of the experiences. We know what are the challenges, what are the weaknesses, what can be done to make it work, and to bring in these new ideas around BOTT, which are not new, by the way. We've done BOT team many, many years ago, especially in the water space. And it worked, but it was abandoned. So I'm making that play that we do that. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Can we respond to these questions, and we can take another round of questions after? DM?
Thank you very much, moderator. The first question was around what confidence will entrepreneurs be given to actually bring in their investments into what we are planning to do in the BOT. Now, first of all, I must say that as the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, we are trying our best because we are taking to cabinet standardized designs, which also responds to the second question that what are we doing to stop that when new leaders come in, they don't reinvent the wheels. The first one that we have done is that we are taking to cabinet standardized designs. So if you go to Limpopo, to Mpumalanga, to the Eastern Cape, if you see a clinic, you are going to find the same design of a clinic. If you go to Limpopo, Northwest, Mpumalanga, any province in the 9 provinces, you are going to get a standardized classroom. You are going to get a standardized design of a police station. So we are not going to allow people to keep on designing and designing things and changing things. Now, same with the BOT. When we started strategizing around it, talking about it, they were bringing it back. We actually took 2 steps back and reminded ourselves that the entry was a BOT project. By then, it seemed like a fairy tale that we are giving the private sector a road for 20 years. Those 20 years has ended this year. So the private sector that was operating the entry have made their money through the toll gates. They must, at the end of March, give back the entry to SANRA. So indeed, the second question was that BOTs have been there. It's not a new thing, it was abandoned. But now that we are bringing it back, we are strictly saying that together with the implementation of the BOT and the ROT, there must be policies that to cut the risk that when a new broom comes in, it wants to put in a blue brush. We are stopping that by that. There are policies that we are putting in place to mitigate the risk that when somebody comes in, they are going to say, no, BOT is not good. You must, they go and invent something else. So we are well aware of that. And we are saying that the only way for us to actually repurpose and re-renovate, I'm actually even going to encourage Gauteng to also spring on board and get the OBB on their side, Operation Bring Back. Because in the provinces as well, we have people, we know that before 1994 elections, that is where people actually gave themselves properties and land, which is actually our assets. But so with the Operation Bring Back, you will see that a company that will run the Operation Bring Back is a company that will have in its real estate lawyers, everything and everyone, so that we are taking each other to court. So if people have been living along the beach in our houses, we want it back. So if people want to buy it, we will give them a price. We don't care because they took our properties, renovated it into what they want. So we will put a price to it because we must generate income. So if it means that we are going to auction what you have, and going back to the risk where the entrepreneurs are saying, what encouragement is it for people to invest? We are bringing phase 1. We are putting our properties there that we think that it is our real properties that are supposed to be generating income. They're just standing empty there in Pretoria. And we are saying that people who want to come in and do the build, operate, transfer, and the refurbish, operate, transfer, we want to really bring our buildings up to standard. We want to go green. So even when the investors come, we are not just going to say renovate, or we are going to tell them what type of building we want to see. We have got our own phase 1 green building, We have also got the Public Service Commission building. It's a green building that we did through the DBSA. So we know what we have in our heads and what we want. Even our landlords that want to remain with us, if our own buildings don't cover what we need in terms of the portfolio to get our tenants in there, we are going to tell our landlords what we want to see in our buildings so that our tenants don't want to go out of the buildings and look for something else. But I think that is where we are at, and we have been discussing it, that the thing that takes government back all the time is that when new leaders come in, they want to use a new method of doing things. For example, I can just say that I don't understand why in South Africa we use cold asphalt for potholes, when we know that with cold asphalt you cannot seal off a pothole. You need hot asphalt so that you can seal off the pothole so that if it rains tomorrow it does not come out. But we go at Mbizos as the deputy minister and you watch people putting 16 bags of cold asphalt into a pothole, then you ask, who's the engineer here? I am DM, then I say, but you faka kanjani 16 bags of cold asphalt here, tomorrow when it rains it's gone? I also ask questions. That brings me to us going out on even doing our roads. We must bring in BOTs so that we have proper roads. Because I don't understand why we put tar in the township that doesn't have a sidewalk, that doesn't have a stormwater. Because a proper road is a road that must have a tar, a stormwater, and a sidewalk, because that talks to the durability of the road. I also don't know why we don't just get off from the asphalt and the tar story and just do paved roads, because it's going to give us a longer lifespan, it's not going to have potholes. That all just talks to when new people come in. They will want to come up with things that do not work for us. Because when I go to the Mbizos, I'm always just watching, and of course when they say that we are coming as the executive, then you see trucks, you see everything. When you get there, everything they are doing is wrong. Because we all know that the road must have stormwater channels, it must have sidewalks. With climate change and the environment and its impact on construction that is coming, we cannot even still want to go that route. So we are trying our best at Department of Public Works and Infrastructure that any strategy we come up with, any program we're embarking on with, there must be a policy that blocks the next COP in town from being creative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. I think the questions have been
Maybe
responded to.
Yeah, just one. I think just for my interest's sake. I don't know, who works in government? Has any of you as entrepreneurs ever done work in government? Yes. Have you ever lost your money in government?
Yes. We had to fund government. As an entrepreneur or as government?
No, as an entrepreneur.
Yes. We had to fund working government because they don't pay.
Okay, so, and maybe just through you.
No, I had great support, don't get me wrong.
Okay.
So it's balanced.
Okay.
I had great support from government, and I've had
Bad examples, yes.
and I probably had greater support than I've had misfortunes.
Okay.
And the reason I was asking about policy certainty is the same reason I think my colleague is asking about when a new leadership comes. Because usually things get stuck with change in leadership.
Yeah.
So the misfortunes have happened during
the change.
during the changes.
Yeah. No, I think through you, facilitate, and really without really taking your space, but I think from my understanding, if there's any, I don't want to call it confidence, but maybe confidence, once as an entrepreneur you bring in your money into the state, you are certain that you're going to get it out. Even to the extent that ourselves, when we look at it, we always sometimes think that I think entrepreneurs often take advantage, and not in a bad way, right? Because they know that they even get it even double, even with interest. Because government, yes, we may be a slow payer, quite accurate, but at the same time, we ultimately do make the necessary payments that needs to be made. So in Gauteng government, we've been following up, and I think AG has been very strict on us, and through the leadership of the province. On a month-to-month basis, we've been keeping track of our 30-day payment, which is a legislative approach where you get to be audited if you are paying suppliers within that period, which is one. But secondly, we've even taken it down to 15 days where we get to assess ourselves as departments how quickly we are paying our suppliers, but also even towards even 10 days to even to 7 days. Because I think as Gauteng government, we've really been trying and working quite intensely to make sure that we improve, because we don't want to kill businesses. But you are certain that without us enhancing or enabling entrepreneurs to be able to receive their money on time, it then makes it very difficult. But of course, yes, there are instances where it takes years. And either if you don't take us through court and whatsoever, chances are that you may then not receive what is due to yourself. And I think I agree with you that in many instances it's largely because of some of the changes that are there. And I thought, and I think the DM has been able to really accurately just make reference to that. I think we can only do it through our own policies. We can only do it in such a through the various contracts that we sign. That then forces all of us as parties that to say that we are binded by the relationship that has been established for a certain purpose of us being able to deliver service delivery. But I definitely do think that at the level of the political space, I think DM has been able to re-emphasize that much. I think administratively, we just have to make sure that the various contracts that are in place are enabling to ensure that there is no mistrust, one, but secondly, that it protects both parties that are in that relationship. And I think we've been able to do that as Gauteng government.
Thank you.
If I may come in.
Yeah, please come in.
If I may ask, who has ever lost any money on government 10-year bond?
10-year bond.
10-year bond. Anyone who has lost money on South African government 10-year bond? Yeah, and the yield is very good. If you say you have lost money in that investment or space, I will definitely agree with your uncertainty. Secondly, all our leases, most of them, they run up to 20 years. And the landlords want us to continue, even beyond 20 years, because government guarantees payment. The margin of uncertainty is non-material. If you look at the South African exposure, it's very non-material. Even if you're exposed to the 2008 economic downturn, the bond was not bad. Secondly, we are highly regulated. And at times, I felt we were meeting Treasury Friday, the DM. I spoke to the CFO. I said, CFO, how do we regularize this SBOT? One guy from Treasury said, no, man. Sibande, you want us now to issue another regulation. Giyama Section 3 give us an ability to optimize our assets. Section 5 give us an ability to dispose assets in terms of socio-economic, including economic empowerment, job creation. So the legislation is there. The problem with us, DM, in my previous life, I've seen, you know, when the new principal comes, we all stand still as technocrats. we get a shock. that organizational shock always creates take us into a state of inability to execute because we want to wait for a new instruction. Yet we forgot that we've got a program. At times it's not the politician, at times it's us officials. You know, there's very few politicians who came into the organization and said, stop, don't do that. Very few. And I'm talking from experience, by the way. I've seen programs, I've seen projects in my previous life that we stopped as officials, hoping that the principal would give us instruction. After 3 months, the project collapsed, and he said, no, it's them. I never said they must stop. And that time we waited for a memo. I don't know. A memo just to give us a go-ahead. But there was no need for a memo. We're supposed to implement. So I'm saying some of these programs that we have, the regulation is there, the programs once adopted, and we need to execute, unless there's a change of regime, which is probability is very slim. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, can we then have one last round of questions? You can start.
All right, thanks moderator, and greetings to the panelists. My name is Mbasa Chombe. I'm with Infrastructure South Africa. My question is, maybe to give it context, it's under the understanding of two objectives. One is the optimization of state assets, and then within that, there's a component of rapid, say, land release or property release, if I can frame it like that. So what we found as actual examples is that DPWI would have a lot of assets, whether it's properties or land, and they may be located strategically, not necessarily for DPWI, but maybe for another government department. So the question becomes, is there an appetite from the department to be able to trade off those properties if, say, maybe health needed it and there was no immediate strategy to use it from the DPWI side, or if education needed it and there was no immediate need to use from a DPWI side? And I guess layered upon that is that we know that some years back the municipalities took a strategic decision to not dispose of properties at 0 rand. They, as part of their, I guess, income revenue policies and strategies, will want anyone who wants access to the land to buy the land. But on the other hand, you have a state department that sits with plenty land, which perhaps could be applied in that sort of scenario. So the question becomes, is there an appetite both at a national level and also at a provincial level to be able to get into those agreements?
Okay.
Good day, everyone. My name is Mzamayendo Tazondi. I am from KZN Department of Agriculture. My first question is, as government, I know I'm from government as well, but as government of infrastructure, how do you protect the new investor that wants to use the property or revamp the property? How do you protect them from the previous tenant, how do you protect them from being abused by the previous tenant that still maybe want to use the property or the building, be it illegally or not? And then secondly, in the leasing of government properties, is it something that can be accessible to government employees as well? Since I'm from agriculture, I don't have anything to do with DID or public works. I know there is disclosure and whatnot, and those things can be done, but is it something that can be accessible to us as well, as we want to grow and be a big shot one day? And then the last one is just a comment in that some of the model, if we can adopt partly working from home and working in the offices. The way I see it, we can have a system where in one building maybe we are housing Home Affairs and we are housing maybe a municipality, and then the offices can interchange in that the department is always functional and running, as in there is always people in place, but maybe other individuals work 3 days or 2 days in a week, and then the other 3 days they are working from home. That model, for me, it's a win-win situation, as in we can compress the employees. I mean, we can compress the number of properties that we need to use as government, and in that way we are reducing the rental amount that is needed, be it a rental amount or other cases that is needed. And also, even with the employees, they are winning in that they are saving on transportation money and they are saving on time traveling back
I
and
think
forth.
your point
from
is
work.
clear, it's crystal clear. Yeah, we can move to, I think, the last question.
Is it right?
This is the last one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm also Taban Tladi from Infrastructure South Africa. Firstly, to comment to my brother right here, and I wanted to just give you a heads up that close of business tomorrow is the last day to give comments to Treasury on the new PPP regulations. So I know you were interested in that. So yeah, so you've got until tomorrow to do that. I think the interesting part about these new regulations is they firstly allow for institutions to utilize PPP regulations differently, especially where your project is worth less than 2 billion rands. So you don't have to qualify or utilize Treasury approval 2A and 2B similarly to other bigger projects. And I think that's a great move by Treasury to allow departments to move faster with PPPs. And the other element which I think we need to take cognizance of is the unsolicited proposals that are allowed now in the PPP space, which I think is going to enable the absorption of PPP usage. So I think for those who want to comment, please provide those comments. My question is to GDID, and it's around the Kopanong precinct. It's kind of linked to what my brother was saying at the back, and I think it's to say, of course, when the models were done before, it was, pre-COVID, and a lot has changed since then. And I would like to understand your thinking around the utilization of space now of that, massive estate, and are there ways of re-looking at it post-COVID, and how we can, utilize that space differently from a mixed-use option. The place where we are at right now, what Rabi has done with Century City, is an indication of what we can do with reconfiguration of spaces and utilization. And I think the state has an opportunity to utilize its assets in a similar manner. So I wanted to get from your point, because Kopanong is an impressive project, but I think we have an opportunity now to up the bar in revenue generation. But I wanted to hear your views around what is your thinking in changing from the previous utilization plans. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Hi.
We had said it's the last question, but I think we can allow for the last.
That guy's hand is also.
And him, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, panelists, DM. So I'm Tamega Shongwe, I'm from Hermanus Salmon, and I think my question is to the head of property management. So just a backstory to the context of my question is, I work for a company that is potentially going to be the first land-based salmon fish farm in Hermanus. And we've been engaging with the Department of Public Works from the very beginning of the establishment of the company. And we are part of Operation Pakisa. So now with the new framework of how you guys will be advertising the leases, particularly those around the harbor, my question is it possible that property management can work with the DFFE in order to give preference to the companies that are under Operation Pakisa, because we're currently sitting at 0% of not operating because of the delay that we've had with public works. So, yeah, to the head of property management, is it possible that the Department of Public Works can work together with the DFFE, that first preference is given to Operation Pakisa companies? Thank you.
Okay, we can. Yes,
Thanks,
yes,
Chair.
Leslie.
My name is Leslie Ramutla from Retela Local Municipality. Chair, I only have one question to the head of property trading management. Is that, and to the DM also, is that the government, the public works itself, has it never ever thought that we should make PMTE a private company so that we are able to leverage the amount that is on the market, run it privately, independent, together with our assets? I'm asking this because Transnet disposed assets, Northwest government disposed assets, ESCOM disposed their property assets. And I'm a wholly believer of developmental state. No government should dispose its own assets, especially in our own country with so much inequality. But these entities continue to dispose assets. And when you ask, they said, no, they are becoming a deadwood in our balance sheet, we're unable to utilize them. So now I'm saying that, have you ever not thought that we take a PMTE instead of a branch of public works, makes it an independent company, maybe Mr. Sibande will become the inaugural CEO, and with a board, and then it goes outside and raises capital, refurbishes these properties, and give it to the market. Because we are seeing other companies that are contesting with public works making money. Reboses, your what, all these listed companies making money. But it's only public works that is losing money in a property space. Have we not thought about it? I'll submit the Chair.
Thank you. You guys are making the panel work hard very late in the afternoon. Over to
Thank you very much, moderator. The first question where they are asking about what do we do when other departments want to use our properties. Now, that one becomes a way where the head of PMTE can talk to them. But when it comes to land, we are able to dispose of land government to government. For example, we gave ESCOM 28 pockets of lands within 3 weeks when they needed land to do the solar battery storage, and to other countries that are experimenting on measuring wind in Mpumalanga around ESCOM. So the government to government legally, there's a section in the constitution which allows us to give land to other government departments, and to also give municipalities land. We have given a lot of municipalities land in a very short space of time. It becomes different in the turnaround of times because they are not leasing from us. We give them the land as government to government. But when another department wants to use our land, our properties, they need to lease because that is how we generate income. We can't just give them buildings. The only buildings that we have given to social development is where we give them buildings for the gender-based violence programs. That is where we give, in the 9 provinces, the social departments, they use for shelter and all those things. And the other person who asked the question on whether as government employees you can also lease land. No, you are not a business person, you are a government employee. You must remember that our properties, we don't give them for domestic use, for accommodation. Even if you get the very old buildings which were used by justice, which were used by the soldiers, which were used by nurses before, and all those type of things. There's a lot of properties that belong to justice, to correctional services. If you are leasing that building and you are going to break it down and build flats and whatever, you bring a business plan. Because you are showing us that you are going to lease from us for 30 years, which means that on a monthly basis you are going to pay on that lease, which means that you are going to run a building, a property, you are going to let out flats, or else you are demolishing and developing office space that you are going to rent out, which means we are also going to get an income from that. So government employees cannot, and you find people calling us, I found an old house, I'm staying in ngithi sizokubizela amaphoyisa. You can't be staying in our house, it's not for domestic use. Even if it means that it was used by soldiers and correctional services officials or anybody. But when you bring a business plan to us, it is different. Now, on our young lady saying that we must speak to DFFE, we are not going to do that. Ours is to say that our properties, you might be saying that you have lost money through public works and everything else, but we have a policy that we must abide by. That we are saying that all our properties along the harbors, whether it's all of them, we are saying that we are going on tender and everybody must retender. You might have been our tenants before, but when Minister Delil kicked in the policy, unfortunately everybody went on a month-to-month because people were not adhering and people were refusing what we are saying, that if we are very sincere about saying that we want to change the face of property to bring in black people, I don't think that we were going to still give people 9 years, 11 months. Because currently, we only give you 9 years, 11 months on our leases if you are black, and or if you comply with the policy of 51-49%. The black person must have 51%, the white man must have 49%. The management of the company, you must show us that the black person is part of the management, but most importantly, 20% or more in the title deed is what the black person must own. Now, if you are saying we are holding you back, yes, it might give that picture, but DFFE cannot come into our leasing out of the property because you apply for a license for your fishing and for running your things there in the ocean economy from DFFE. But when it comes to our properties, we give you a property, you come with your license, but we don't ask you where is your fishing license. It's DFFE that asks you that. We give you our property. So you and DFFE's partnership is for you to participate in the ocean economy. It does look selfish from our side, but it's not. We also want to adhere to our policy of changing the face of the property space. It's unfortunate that it's that way, my dear, but we can't negotiate with DFFE because Minister Barbara Chrissy will say, where do you fit into my fishing licenses? We've got nothing to do with fishing licenses. You get the property from us, you sort your fish there, you do whatever. Our contract with you is that we give you space, but DFFE deals with the rest of it. I'll leave the rest of the question. Okay, I think that even before the head of PMTE even answers fully the question of saying, why are we not making PMTE to be a standalone entity and everything else? Look, PMTE operates as an agency within public works. The only shortcomings that we have had is that for a very long time we did not have a permanent DDG. And you must remember that the head of PMTE, as a DDG of the PMTE unit, is actually on level 16, like a DG. So in our structure, we have the DG who is level 16. We have the head of PMTE who's the DDG, but also on level 16 because we are running the PMTE as an agency. So Mr. Sibande is like a DG himself because of the level that he's on. He's on level 16, just like the DG. So he runs the agency within there. Because if you really take it out of public works, you're actually going to kill public works, because PMTE carries our CPM, which is our construction and project unit, the branch. It carries our total facilities management. It carries the whole of the whole property portfolio. It carries REMS. It carries race, which deals with the precincts, what you see at Salvokop and all the precincts around the country. So, uma so ufuni two to PMTE shokuthi uvali public works baba siyekuphi mele sisebenze lapha nathi. Thank you very much, moderator.
Thank you.
No, thank you, moderator. Thanks, colleagues. I think the DM has covered all the questions.
Yeah.
We can engage outside and we over WhatsApp and other means of social communication. We are available to engage. We are committed to the program, and let's make it. Let us move away from theory and translate all these theories into practice. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, but maybe just a few issues. So agreeing really to the DM, there is trade-offs between departments, depending on the use of that specific asset. Firstly, the department that owns the rights of the assets must firstly agree that they will not use it for service delivery anytime soon, and therefore it can be given to any other person. To the extent that at some point there was even trade-offs, which would be your either donation even between different spheres of government. But however, because of some of the challenges that we are faced with within our local municipality, it has not really given us some results. But there are IGR engagements that are taking place, and there'll always be a market value of a specific asset if there's a need for us to be able either to purchase it for a specific purpose. But there are those trade-offs between the same government or within the same provincial government. I think on the issue of an employee, I think DM has responded properly. I think just the only thing, I mean, with ourselves, we've identified as part of our disposal of assets where we realized that some of the assets were no longer becoming valuable for ourselves and not contributing towards the service delivery. Like, for example, some of the houses that you find that they've been in our asset register for the longest of time. We've been able to give some of those assets to some of the employees, but they've had to go through a process of application, of affordability, like, for example, the police and some of the other officials that have worked for DRT in some of the raid areas, that we felt that it's only fair for us to be able to give them the first right of refusal, and then after that, if they do not want them, then we take it out on the market for auctions. But I think on the last issue, I'm certain we can engage outside, but there is definitely a plan to look at mixed use, and I mean, as I said, beyond COVID, we are aware that there's a need for us to be able to look at things differently and become more efficient instead of just being locked up in the same way of doing things. So, but we can engage outside. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can we give our panel a big round of applause? They've been really great this afternoon. I think we've come to the end of our discussions. We'll quickly take a group photo, and then there'll be gifts provided for us. Yeah. Thank you.